So in this video we're going to do the settings page. I've decided something a little bit different and keep working on this same area here. So we're going to go and do the settings, and I haven't had much time to prepare this, so I've done a quick Photoshop file showing something similar to what I'm thinking we're going to do. So I just quickly mocked this up 10 minutes ago. Give us some idea of what we're going to try and do with some UI. I'm going to have this, I think, sliding up from the bottom, and then the close button will slide it away, or potentially slide it out so it comes up one way, goes out another. I'm not sure. We'll play with that when we get there. But this is just the general idea. What I'm thinking: nice big profile picture. When you hover over, you get sort of these dots at the top corner that indicate that you can edit the profile picture. These will all be read only, but then when you hover again, you'll get this dot. You click this, and we'll either change this to a text box, or like with the password, we'd expand to show 2 text boxes, and then you can enter them. So again, we'll do this as we go. I haven't really pre-planned this out much, so we'll just go ahead and try and do that. Now, in the last few videos, well, it was a recent comment, but it was from an older video. A guy called Marco that watches the videos noticed that if you go to Program Files and you go to Visual Studio, so Microsoft Visual Studio, not the ones with the numbers, just the normal Visual Studio, then 2017, then the version you've got, and then Common 7, IDE, then where was it? I think it was, let's have a look. I've got the file open. It's a good job I left the file open. It is Common 7 IDE. Oh, it is, yeah. Item templates was the next one. Where are we? So IDE, then item templates, C# code, then this is your language number, so this might be different for you if you're not on an English machine. I think that's the language number. And then class, and then you'll finally get to this class.cs, and I'm not sure what this class.vs template is. It's just telling it to use the class. So this is the file that gets pulled in when you create a new class. And you'll notice in all my videos, if we go ahead and create a new class, and I've never done this before, so we'll see if this works, but I'm pretty sure this is what's going to happen. When you create a new class, you get these namespaces, which I always delete. I just delete them all because I don't like any namespaces. And then I also had the word public every time. Then I also had a comment. So what we might do is tweak the class to come pre-done this way, which is basically removing those, fitting public there, and probably even having, because 99 times out of 10 we want a constructor, and there's very few times when it's a downside to not have the constructor. So that means I also then type this, and then I do this, and then I call this default constructor. And that's every single time I make a class. So I think if we got this as the template of the class, it'd save me a lot of time. So this is going to be really cool if this works, and again, credits to Marco for finding this out. So I'm just going to head, you can see this template file basically points to class. So instead of actually editing class, I'm going to copy paste, and call this Luke's class. And then I'm going to edit Luke's class instead. And then all I'm going to do, I don't want that going in a new window. I'll get there in a minute. Whoa, there we go. We can close class, and then in this template we'll change this to use Luke's class. I can save that. Oh, and of course this is, if you want to edit this file, because it's under admin privileges, Visual Studio Code does not like running as admin. So you can type VS Code, hold Control, Shift and Enter, and then click yes, but I'm pretty sure it complains when it tries to run as admin. Let's just close this down. Code, run as admin, yes. Okay, so that actually doesn't mind on this machine. I think it's when I'm on Linux, it really doesn't like running as admin. So we have to run Visual Studio Code as admin. which I basically held Control and Shift and pressed Enter when I opened it. Or you can right click on the shortcut and run as admin, because these files are in, obviously, program files. So now when I save the file, that's saved okay. Now if I edit, and then you lose the ability to drag and drop now onto this. So I'll have to just do open Luke's class. So now I don't want any other usings at all. So just get rid of that. I'm just wondering where the space comes in here, because there's no space left in here. But we don't want a space anyway. So then we have this class, so then we'll do, well, basically, so long as we have safe item root name, then we can just copy this whole thing. So that was safe item root name, I believe it was. And that, I would have thought now, and I'm also guessing I'll likely have to, well, I don't know, I might have to close and reopen Visual Studio. It might be red at the time. So let's just see now if I add a new class. No. So, close Visual Studio. Okay, so now it's reopened. Let's go ahead and add a class. And hopefully, fingers crossed, this will work. Oh, it's still not working. So let's just go back to here. Maybe default name. Maybe you just didn't like this. Oh, hang on. There we go. Project item class. We've also missed this bit here. So that, oh, that's the default name of the class file, I'm guessing, even though it says class 1. So let's change that back. And I'm guessing it's the project item. So let's delete that and create one more. And as I mentioned, I've not done this before, so I'm just playing around and seeing what works. But you can clearly see that is the class file. There we go. Oh, that's nice. So now it's made a new class. We forgot to add the comments to the top of here, which we also wanted. Let's add those back in. And now we have, that's really cool. So now, whenever I'm making a new class, that's going to save me a load of time in just typing all those default things in, you know, the little things I do every single time I make a class. So there we go. And we now get a class with a default constructor inside a region with comments on both and none of the namespaces. That's really cool. So that will now work. So that can get closed. So back to the settings menu now. So as we mentioned, I mocked this up and we're just going to go ahead and start making this. So I guess this wants to be a user control, the settings page. I mean, it's kind of a page, like the chat page and login page, but it's not really going to be a page we're navigating off to. It's kind of a slide up, and it's not really a control, I guess. Well, it is. It's still a control. So we'll just call it a settings control. Oh, not class. Add. And we can actually do the same for, I guess, this user control as well, to edit the default template. Because when I create these, mind you, the only thing I'm doing there is changing the namespace, which we could potentially do. Change the namespace from being the folder's namespace to being the root. We'll look at that another time. So change namespace out. Get rid of all these. Make sure everything compiles. Okay, just a load of errors. What's going wrong with Visual Studio? Falsetto already contains a definition for word. Oh, yep, I completely removed everything, including the name of the control. So Settings control. Controls does not exist, that's there. So yeah, this is also something I want to fix in those default files, because that's really annoying every time we have to do that. And most of the times I forget. I either forget to remove that or I tweaked that wrong, so we'll definitely look at that. Also, I just noticed my screen isn't set to slightly larger. There we go. So we now have this settings control that we want to start working with. So let's work by this side by side. It might be a bit small, but let's try it. And tab for that. So this is what we want. And I guess we can shrink that actually and tweak this. Let's border down this one across. So the first thing we want is a white background. There's the white background. Then we have, again, think of it as stack panel or grid. So this we want to be, the title wants to take up what it needs, and then this wants to take up the rest. So that's going to be a grid initially, so we've got a grid here. And we now want 2 columns into that grid. Sorry, 2 rows. And the second one is to take up all the remaining height. So this will then become the settings title, and the next one will be the main content. So inside the settings title now, we've got an arrow over here, and then this will take up the rest. So really, again, I think a grid with a single column's fine, and we'll simply have this one center and this one left aligned, and then they'll basically lay over the top of each other. So I'll just use a grid over inside the row definition. So this one will now be a grid, and the arrow is a font awesome arrow, so it wants an icon button. So icon button content equals, and then we don't think we have that yet. Font awesome. We'll go and get that in a moment. Just pick any for now. I don't see the arrow anywhere. Why is that? Because we haven't set the font. And let's set the size. Come on, let's appear. Where are you? Why aren't we getting this button anywhere? Oh yes, so we still have that issue, really? Maybe we didn't fix the icon button. I thought we fixed this a while ago in the videos. So the issue we had with the, well, I guess let's just test what I'm thinking first. Yeah, so for some reason, well, I know the reason why, we bound the button style where are we? So we bound the button style, the width to the height, but if there is no height, then obviously it's an infinity height and the width becomes infinity. But I thought we fixed that in the previous video, so I guess for now we simply set the height. And because we want this spacing anyway, we'll just work around it with the height, but we'll definitely need to come back and fix this layout issue with the button if it's inside something that doesn't have a height in the near future. And we also now need to change the see if just changing the foreground color works. And let's go and get this font awesome thing for left arrow. Or let's do arrow left. So font awesome cheat sheet, arrow, and then we could have this arrow in a circle, or we could use the one that I did on this Photoshop file, which is this one. Again, we can play with that, but that should do for now. Oh, I forgot, yeah, you just copy that. So now we can do arrow left. And there's the arrow. And as we mentioned, this wants to be left aligned. Now that's over there. We also want it to be, I'm thinking, let's do a padding, let's do a margin on the bottom of 10. It's not making any difference. Oh yeah, it is, we're just not seeing it. So let's, I know it's going to be about 20, this will be about 40. Again, we'll play with the sizes after. And that should already be a working button. Then we want the settings, which is again very similar, but the settings going to have a font awesome text, and in fact we can do that in one text anyway. So I think if you do a text block, you can do a run with a font family font awesome, and as it text, yeah, text equals font awesome cog, and foreground, we want the word orange. There we go. Font size will have large. There we go. Again, we mentioned we wanted this font to be centered, and I think vertically as well. Same with this, we actually want to vertically center this so they're both on the same line regardless of size. And then we've done, this time we've done a text block that's got inner runs. So that's the first run, which is simply a cog icon. And then this will be settings text. That's the header. So we've managed to do it in a single control. And now we simply remove the font family. And the text is now settings. And we can bind this, and we should bind this eventually as well to view models and localization, so that this can be changed for different languages. So we want font family wants changing to, I think, regular. And there we have that settings menu. We'll come back to doing the rest in a minute. Let's just get this sliding up and in so we can start visually seeing it. So if we do that, we will want to go to the main window, because this is going to overlay everything else. And then in the window resource, similar to where the overlay is, outer border with drop shadow, window border, main window, corner. Where did we put the overlay thing? Dimmed overlay here. So, similar place to this. We will then put our settings page. To do that, we want a local settings control. I'll have the same thing, grid.column span equals 2. That now takes all that up. Panel.z index is going to be 11 because it's going to sit over the dimmed. Actually, no, it's not going to sit over the dimmed, it's going to sit just under the dimmed. So panel index of 9. And that's all we had in the other control. So let's just build, make sure that's built. And then what we want to do is now apply an animation to this, which is a slide up animation, which I think we potentially have. So we'll move this out of the way for now. We'll go back to full screen. I think in animations, slide in from left, slide in from bottom, so that slides up. So we should have slide in from bottom animation. And now we need to bind this to something. So we're going to bind this to a new property that we'll create, which is settings menu visible. Then go to the code behind, go to the window view model. And this will be, and actually I don't really like it being in the window view model because this is in the top level, it's not in a core, so nothing can change it. So what did we do for dimmable? I guess we did nothing. Do we have an application view model yet? Yeah, application view model. So we'll have a property here to get and set, but all we'll do is bind it to, well, we could do one of two things. We could either bind it here and have like a duplicate that passes down that simply then calls ioc.get, and in fact we'll do that, it's easy. So settings menu visible. It's just so that our window binding can be nice and simple like this, just a single line, instead of changing the source of the binding. And then what we'll do here is, in the getter, we'll simply return ioc.core.ioc. Why do we need core when we've got that? We shouldn't need to type core, for some reason it's wanting us to. And because the application view model is in core as well, why do we keep having to type core? Something's really annoying here. Maybe it's just because it hasn't finished typing the line. Now the side menu visible, we'll go to that, and we'll create the real view model here. And this will be settings menu visible. And by default it's false, which we don't need to specify by default. True if the settings menu should be shown. And get is actually returning that. So now why do we need core? This is really strange why it's not finding. Oh, it is, just IntelliSense completely messed up, I thought so. Let me just restart Visual Studio quickly. Okay, that's fixed that issue. True if we should have a dimmed over, so true if we should show the settings menu. So this just passes through as a getter and a setter, and this is simply the value. So what I'm also going to do, because application view model is in core anyway, extract method refactor had an error. Okay. Visual Studio likes to crash a lot this morning. Yeah, it's doing it every time. Anyway, so in the IOC, we had the shortcut for the UI. We're going to add a shortcut for the application view model as well. Because it's in core and it forms part of the base of all the application. We'll just call this application. Don't think we need to do application view model. We know what it is with application, so. And then that allows us now to change this, which is probably used in a few places, to just application. In fact, I'll show you doing it manually out instead of just, find replace all. So you can see all these places we're using it. Well, in fact, I will just do the find replace all. So you see all those places, we know it says that, and we simply change it to, say, application now. If not, you can do this manually. Just change the get application view model into just application. Yes, I'm sure. And now we have a much nicer, clean way of just accessing the application view model with IOC.application. So all we've done is bound down this settings menu visible to then set the underlying the applications view model, which is in core. So that should now bind to that value, and it will slide up when it's set to true. So all we need to do now is quickly set it to true. I think we've used every button in here at the minute to do something, so I think the send button is already bound to do. Let's have a look. I think that's send command. So at the moment we show a message box, which we did with the last video. So let's just comment that out for now and simply do ioc.application.settings menu visible equals true to show the settings menu. And let's just run that and see if it works. And a project with the output. Oh yeah, because I unloaded the Word application one when it wasn't compiling, I need to reset this as the starter project. Press F5. This machine's slow this morning. Really slow. Okay, okay, so we are calling our, yeah, the find and replace all actually replaced this call as well, the one call we didn't want to replace. Let's change that back to application view model, otherwise it's just an infinite loop calling itself. There we go. So now clicking send should hopefully, oh, and we've also got the settings page right now is over the top of everything, so we can't click. And I think, to be honest, we're okay setting this for every animation. I don't think there's really an issue with the animation. Okay, it's lost all the settings. Yeah, let's ignore that for the moment. To clean and build will fix that. So what we did with we added a, what did we add? The fade in property. We changed the default to inside the fade in to basically make it invisible when it was finished on the fade out here. So I think we want to do a similar thing on all the animations. Once it's out the way, there's no real need for it to be taking up click space because it's not meant to be visible. So on all sort of the fade outs inside the framework element animations, we sort of wait for it to be And the only reason you'd not want to do this, I guess, is if this is going to affect layout. So that's if keep margin. Because if you want to keep the margin, then you're trying to keep the height or the width or whatever it is that you're doing in the actual UI. But for now, so we could say sort of if not keep margin, do this. But for now, let's try how it works with collapsing everything. Make element invisible. So that's the slide out there. Sliding from bottom's done. Fade out already does it. Slide in from right. So the slide in's fine. The slide out wants to go collapsed, which is completely off the UI so that you can click through. And then we'll jump back to the login page to test this as well, to make sure we haven't broke anything doing this. So that's all the animations now set to completely hide when they're out the way. So hopefully now we'll have the button back. There we go. And now when we click, we're expecting that settings page to slide up. Or not. So let's figure out why that is. So firstly, we have the main window. The settings page should be bound to settings menu visible, which should be in here. Settings menu visible. Oh, hang on, I know what I'm doing here. This is a Boolean value, and we've bound, oh no, that's right, settings menu visible. So that, oh, I also know what we've done here. So we can't do what I was thinking there, because, well, that should have actually worked saying that. But what we've done is we've set the underlying, let's go to code behind. So when we changed it with the command button for the send command, we changed the IOC application settings model, and not this model, and this is higher up. But because this getter gets from here, really Foddy Weaver should have been smart enough to detect that and fire this event because it's bound to it. So I'm guessing Foddy Weaver's failed in this instance. Maybe it's because it's a cross-project dependency. So let's jump back to the second idea, which is simply get rid of that and change the source to the application view model, which I know we've done again somewhere else. I think we used the view model locator or something in value converters. I'm sure we used this thing that we started making. So let's see where this is used. It's used right here on the same page, just below it. So we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to have a view model locator, and we're going to get the application page value. Oh no, so you just want the source setting up, and that's it. So we should just be able to change this to binding of settings visible menu and the source. No, that's not right either, is it? Oh yeah, it is. You just have to do then application view model dot. I think that should compile. I don't know. Let's see if that works. There we go. That kind of didn't work. So that's not dark when it should be. There's no arrow there, but I think that's just due to the foreground colour messing up in some way. And that also didn't fade up, like slide up. I'm sure that just appeared. So that's probably due to the collapse state that we changed. So that's now working, even though IntelliSense is all messed up on it again. So let's open the settings control first and make sure this text is explicitly set to very dark. Let's quickly see if that fixes the issue with the colour. So let's fix that issue. Next issue is why the arrows disappeared. And it has actually disappeared. So the cog icon, oh no, sorry, not the cog icon, the back button is just nowhere to be seen. Okay, it's not inheriting the height now for some reason. Oh, that's weird. So, I think WPF is just a bit messed up this morning. It seems to be very buggy on what it's doing. Okay, let's set an explicit height for now. And let's see if that's it. I think it's the style, the icon button style needs some work. It's that binding to the height that's messing things up. There we go. And that's the wrong one anyway. That's not the one I wanted. I wanted the other style. I want the one with the icon that just grows. What's it? Text icon? No. What did we call it? Icon button, icon grow button. So let's change that style to icon grow button. So that's that icon fixed. We need a lot more padding here anyway. This has got nowhere near enough padding. I guess, oh no, don't want margin because the background won't show. So we need to put this in a border to get padding. And we'll do, say, 20. Move the whole border in. It's actually updating. And then move the background to there. I think 20 will be fine. So let's go back to, I'm pretty sure this collapse thing is what's broken the animation. So I think it's going to be when you slide in, because it's collapsed. When you slide in, we start the animation, we add all the stuff, we begin, and we make it visible. So actually, no, that should work, because it's visible. But just to check, let's make that there, and the issue is then clicking won't work. So we'll have to really quickly just add something to the main page so that we can actually open this while it's not overlaying. Or can we just disable? If we just change hit test visible, we could maybe bind hit test visible to when it should be shown, and that might be an alternate option. There we go. So, but that's still, that wasn't the underlying issue, and now we can't click in there anyway. So we have an issue with the slide up. So have we not used? We've used slide up because we used it in the. Oh, let's cancel that. Nope, too late. We used it in the attach menu pop-up. So is that just is that only not working on the settings page? Let's see. So this thing, oh yeah, so we have broke something here because this was working. And yet, I've reverted the change back. Oh no, I haven't here. So let's revert that back. And let's just hide this a moment. And let's see if it is the collapse that's causing that issue. What is going on with this? I'm not trusting Visual Studio right now. I think something's really glitchy because everything I'm doing, that should not be visible, and now it's still visible because the animations changed it. That's why. Let's just remove it a moment. Okay, so yeah, that now works doing that. So we do need we can't do what we thought we could do and simply make it invisible in order for the animation to work. So what we're going to have to do instead, if that is an issue, hang on, what did we actually do with the other menu then? Because we fixed this in the other menu. Let's take a quick look at that attachment control. I can't remember what we did on there. Or vertical menu. Nope. Attachment pop-up. Because I know we had this issue with it when it was fully down. Well, actually, no, I thought we did that. Slide in from bottom. So we already used the slide in from bottom property on this menu, and I thought that's what we did, was to completely collapse it afterwards. Maybe we just did it in a different place. Slide in from bottom property. So slide it out. No. So why we did this? I know we fixed it somewhere. Where did we fix it? There's no point in trying to solve it twice when I know we've already done this somewhere. Page. Oh, on the chat page. So when this was, you can remember when we were doing this click button here and it was sliding up and down. Oh, I know what we did. We didn't fix it. We simply placed it behind with the Z index. And then this was placed above with a higher Z index in here of 3. So we had this issue with the attachment button, but all we did to fix that was set the Z indexes. So we have the same issue here, but I think we can solve this now by, so let's first remove the framework element animations. Let's make sure we've removed it from all places. The collapse thing that we added. So go ahead and remove those back out again because that breaks the layout. I'm wondering whether hidden would work actually. Doing all this, I'm wondering whether simply making it invisible, because right now the opacity fades. I think actually that might work. So just making it invisible might fix the issue. We'll see. Slide out to bottom. And then settings control, no, main window. And let's see if hidden has a hit test ability. Okay, so that. I'm not convinced there. Again, that's built the code. So does this now work? So that works. And yet this one still doesn't. But that's fixed the issue by simply setting it to hidden in the animation. So doing hidden allows clicking through. So we've added that to the slide fade to bottom. Have we done it back in here? Change that one. So basically all of the animating out, the fading out, any of the outs we've waited for the animation to finish, and then we've made it hidden so that we can click through. And that's now fixed one animation, but it's not fixed the page animation. So it could be that the height is not set. So slide and fade out to right. No, we want slide and fade in from bottom. So let's take a break here and let's see what's happening. So when we click this one, let's see. The height is not given, the actual height is 125. Click here. The height is not given, the actual height is correct. So we are telling it to animate up. We're telling it to not keep the margin. And it just fades in. So do we tell the other one to keep the margin? Is that the difference? Nope, so it's nothing to do with that. So we have a thickness from exactly the same thing. From 125 or minus 125. And it animates fine. And this one, 0.3 all the way up, animate. And let's just quickly add, so we don't have to keep closing this to double check and to see. Let's bind this back button to an action to actually close the settings page. So for that we'll need a settings view model now. We'll come back to the animation and fix that animation in a minute. So we've got the application view model. Let's copy and paste that. Call this settings view model. Rename the file. And then we will have in here, we want a command. We don't have any properties right now. We just want a command. And this will be a close command. And then in here we create the commands. Just a relay command to an action called close, which we'll make. Closes the settings menu. And then here we simply call ioc.application.settings menu visible equals false. And that's all we're really doing right now for closing. We could have confirmation of things, or you're in the middle of editing and you want to, you're closing. This might warn you with ioc.ui, and then when we add a new one, that'll be confirm message. We can sort of confirm if the user wants to do that. But for now, we'll simply close the side menu. Oh, sorry, close the settings menu. So that's the settings menu view model. This thing is not bound. We could add the tile to that as well. For now, we're just going to bind the button though. So the command wants to be binding. What was it? Close command. And all we need to do then for now is to bind. We could just bind this directly to the. Actually, yeah, we also need. It's going to be a singleton. We need to add it to IOC in order to find it. So In here we've got the application. There's only going to be a single instance of the settings, so we're going to do settings view model. And then this is bound in here. And we'll just make a single instance of the settings view model as well. And I think actually we don't need this because it can figure that out from what you're passing in, so there's no need to explicitly state it twice. So we now got a settings view model. We've got a quick way of accessing it with settings. We're bound to close command. And because there's only a single instance, we could bind the settings control itself. So we could simply set the data context here to where's that view model locator thing again? Or something that I don't really like doing, but it's okay for this instance. We can set the data context here. And this wouldn't work for... We'll probably end up changing this, I'm certain. But for now, we'll just chuck it in here. We'll come back and clean this up. Because this won't allow us to do design time binding. Well, it would, but we'd have to then have one binding in code behind and one binding in XAML. So we'll probably change this to the view model locator afterwards. But just for quickness, we'll simply set the data context here. So I think that's all we need to get the settings menu to close with that button. Service must contain at least one type. Oh, okay, I guess you do need to I didn't think you need to explicitly quote that because it should figure it out from what you're passing in. But let's see if that fixes that. Okay, let's click this. That still works. Click this. We don't get an animation, but this should close. So at least now we can open and close the menu. We've just got to figure out why this is working with that animation and this isn't working with that animation. Oh, I don't know why we just did that binding to the send page when we have a settings button here we've got to bound it to. Let's just quickly rebind that as well. Doesn't make much difference, but lets us keep the send button to show a dialog. ioc.ui. So keep that showing the message box for now. Let's just bind the side menu. Yes. Settings cog. We have nothing bound at the moment, which is fine. But we will bind the command. We need a command now, don't we? So this is a side menu. This is really an... We'll put a command, I think, in the application. Or what about the settings view model itself? We just simply have an open command, that's what we'll do. So now we have an open command on the settings view model, and now we can simply bind to that open command using the same view model locator thing. So if we do the binding on the settings button, So command equals binding to application view model. So now it'll be settings view model dot open command, and that should be all we need. We should now be able to open it with the actual settings button. So that should go back to showing a pop-up, which it does. That's the animate, and this is now not working. So that didn't work. Do we get to... do we actually get to the settings view model? Oh, hang on, the view model locator doesn't have a settings view model yet. I don't think. That's why. Now it should work. There we go. So now the settings button actually opens the settings menu. This closes, and all we just need to fix now is this animation. So let's figure that out. Let's go to the... it's in the main window, I believe, in a minute. And let's see if we can just at least fix this WPF, because everything seems out of sync at the minute as well. So if you get things like this where it's constantly telling you there's issues, when there just isn't, it's just all over the place. This is what WPF does sometimes. So build, clean your solution, close Visual Studio, go to your actual project, which for me is in Get Angel 6 for Setter Word source, and then in here, the one above, I've got show all hidden files. I'm going to delete this .vs folder rather. I'm going to go into Word. I'm going to delete the bin, the object. I'm going to go into Core, do the same, delete the bin and the object, and then go back up and open the project, and that's like a complete clean of everything. And now hopefully this will fix the issue. So we build now, everything should build fine. And then if we open main window, hopefully we haven't got any more of this IntelliSense issue going on with showing errors where there aren't errors. So there we go, it's fixed all that. Now the settings page is hidden like it should do. And there's no more squiggly line errors. So let's get back to this settings page. First, let's just double check that hasn't fixed it. It rarely does, but maybe something was totally out of sync. No, so that's not fixed it. Let's also slow down this animation because I'm not 100% convinced that it's simply animating that fast and the screen isn't updating. So slide in from bottom, and the issue we have here with the slide in, we can't actually change the default value via this binding, so we're sort of just binding whether it does or not. In future we want to also add the ability to pass in different times. Animate slide in from bottom property. So let's just change this on the slide in, change it to 3 seconds, and let's just be 100% sure it's not animating in. So this should take 3 seconds to animate in, and then goes out. So does this. No, so this is definitely just fading in. So let's just do one thing here. Because all we do is animate. When we slide in from the bottom, we simply animate the margin, and we set it to these values, and we're not keeping the thing, so it's basically 0, 0, 0, and the bottom margin changes. So let's just do that manually. So let's just remove that for a moment, and that should be showing now. There's that, and now let's just set the margin manually, and let's see what happens. So set it to -50. -500, and you can see what's happening. This isn't actually changing. We've got a negative margin, yet this thing isn't moving. So this is because of where it is, I'm guessing. You know, something to do with the layout. So clearly this this should be moving down, but it simply isn't. So we're inside a grid. We have the top one, the bottom one is negative. Something is causing this to not move. So if we had a 500 here. Okay, so the keep margin in this case, we want to be true. Because if you kept the margin, then it's forcing it down. So that's the issue there. And again, it kind of boils down to we need multiple. So sliding from bottom. How do we name this? Because what we're going to do is make another one. So animate sliding from bottom property. Because we want to change this to true. We need to either pass in more details, which we cannot on the attached property, because this is a animate, so it's just an attached property. So we need another attached property, then it'll get messy. So the quickest way to do this, and the simplest way, is to simply make another animate from bottom, and just copy the whole thing because it's so small, and paste. And we'll call this animate from bottom. I'll just put the word margin in there. Copy and paste that to there. Note, keeps the margin. And the other thing we could do is simply change this to default to keep margin, but we're using it elsewhere and we've set it by default for a reason. So let's change these to true to keep the margin. And then all we need to do is change the one that uses the margin. So we go to the settings page and add the word margin there. I think now this should work because we've seen it visibly doing it by altering the margins ourselves. So this should still work, and now this should hopefully, there we go. So now we have a slide up finally. So there's the settings menu slid up and gone away. And we also have the main area to do. So I'm going to do this in another video. I'm going to stop the video and then do this whole thing in one go, because this is more UI design. Now we've done the view model work and the functional code and bound it to actually get started with a control, with a slide up, with the basic header. Sort of gives you a nice starting point. And now we can just add the content inside. The one thing I will just quickly tweak though is I'm not quite. I think that board is a little bit too big. It doesn't kind of fit in with the padding, everywhere else in the application. We've got a little bit too much there. So let's just quickly tweak that. Just reduce that to maybe 15. There we go, that's nicer. And then yeah, the next video we'll fill this out now and get some content in there. This took a little bit longer, planning out. All we should really have to do is slide up a control, but as you can see, there was a few things that had to be debugged and figured out. So hopefully it was I've done this more of a bit more, an unplanned, as I mentioned at the start, kind of an unplanned raw video of just me developing it from start without any kind of pre-thought. So I had no idea of what I was going to do, how I was going to do it. I didn't even give it 5 minutes thought. But then at least you've seen, again, how I'm thinking it through and how I'm doing it and the issues you can hit and how you fix them. So, I want to leave all the stuff in the video so you see everything and hopefully, again, learn from that. Next video is basic UI. So we're just doing this UI. We'll maximize this now. We'll be making this all the nice UI. So again, any comments, let me know. Otherwise, the next video should follow shortly.